Picture this. I'm standing behind a scratched-up counter, the hum of flickering fluorescent lights buzzing above me like a swarm of lazy bees, and the faint grit of sawdust tickles my nose with every breath. I'm Jenna, 37 years old, and this is my world. Handy Haven, a sprawling hardware store on the edge of town that's seen better days. I've been a cashier here for 5 years, scanning barcodes on wrenches and paint cans, making small talk with contractors and DIY dads while the register beeps its monotonous tune. It's not glamorous, but it's steady, and steady is what I need. Life has a way of grinding you down if you don't have something to hold on to, and for me, this job is that anchor. I've been married to Tom for 12 years now. He's a good man, quiet in a way that feels safe, with a gentle smile that used to make my heart race used to. Somewhere along the line, between his long hours at the factory and my shifts here, that spark we had dimmed. We're stable, don't get me wrong. Bills get paid, dinners get cooked, and we still share a bed with the kind of comfortable silence that comes from knowing someone inside out. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the heat, the way we'd steal glances and let our hands linger just a little too long. Now it's more like we're roommates with a shared history, caught in the rhythm of routine. Back at Handy Haven, the store stretches out like a maze of metal shelves and concrete floors, every aisle packed with tools, bolts, and buckets of who knows what. The lights flicker every now and then, casting weird shadows on the walls, and there's always this lingering smell of wood and oil that clings to your clothes long after you clock out. It's not much, but it's familiar. My manager, Greg, runs the show here. He's in his late 40s, a gruff guy with a weathered face, and a wad of gum always rolling around in his mouth. He's fair, though, doesn't play favorites, doesn't hover. He's got this habit of cracking the worst dad jokes you've ever heard, the kind that make you groan but smile anyway. "Hey, Jenna, why don't skeletons fight each other?" he'll say, popping his gum. "They don't have the guts." I just shake my head and keep scanning. Then there are the guys in the warehouse, Marcus and Drew. I've seen them around, hauling boxes and restocking shelves, but I've never really gotten to know them. Marcus is hard to miss. Tall, broad-shouldered, probably in his early 30s, with a laugh that echoes through the aisles like a thunderclap. He's always got a story to tell, whether it's about some wild weekend or a fishing trip gone wrong, and the other guys hang on his every word. Drew, on the other hand, was quieter, but always observant. I remember that Tuesday morning like it was etched into my mind with a sharp tool. The day started like any other at Handy Haven, with the store buzzing like a hive of restless bees. I was stationed at my usual spot behind the counter, the register beeping relentlessly as I scanned items for a line of customers that seemed to stretch on forever. My feet ached something fierce from standing for hours on that hard concrete floor, each step feeling like I was trudging through wet cement. The air was thick with the familiar scent of wood shavings and metal, and every so often I'd catch a whiff of paint thinner from aisle 7. It was just another grind, another day of plastering on a smile for the regulars who grumbled about prices or asked for discounts I couldn't give. Around midday, when the crowd finally started to thin, I saw Greg weaving his way toward me through the cluttered aisles. His boots scuffed against the floor, and that ever-present wad of gum rolled in his mouth as he flashed his signature grin. "Hey, Jenna, got a minute?" he asked, leaning on the counter like he had all the time in the world. I nodded, figuring he just needed me to cover a quick task up front, but then he hit me with it. "Warehouse is short-staffed today. Big shipment of power tools came in, and we need an extra set of hands to unpack. Think you can help out back there for a bit?" My stomach did a little flip. The warehouse? Me? I'd never set foot in that part of the store for anything more than grabbing a stray cart. Heavy lifting wasn't exactly my forte, and the idea of fumbling around in a space I didn't know made my palms sweat. But Greg's eyes had that expectant look, and I didn't want to come off as someone who couldn't pull their weight. So I forced a smile and said, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." I left the counter behind and made my way through the store, passing shelves stacked high with plumbing fixtures and bins overflowing with loose screws. The aisles were a mess, as always, with stray price tags littering the floor and a half-empty box of extension cords blocking the path. As I approached the double doors leading to the warehouse, the air shifted, cooler, heavier, with a faint metallic tang. Pushing through, I stepped into a whole different world. The warehouse was a cavernous space, dimly lit by overhead bulbs that flickered like they were on their last legs. Towering shelves loomed on either side, packed with cardboard boxes and shrink-wrapped pallets. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear the low hum of a forklift rumbling along, its sound echoing off the concrete walls. I spotted Marcus and Drew almost immediately, both of them drenched in sweat, their company-issued polo shirts clinging to their backs as they heaved boxes onto a pallet. Marcus caught sight of me first, his face breaking into a wide grin as he wiped his brow with the back of his hand. Hey, it's Jenna again. So, there I was in the warehouse, the air thick with the scent of cardboard and metal, feeling like a fish out of water among the towering shelves and heavy boxes. Marcus had just flashed me that big, welcoming grin, and Drew gave a nod, his sharp eyes sizing me up, as if I was some new tool they hadn't figured out how to use yet. We'd been working for a while, unpacking crates of power tools, my arms aching from the unfamiliar strain, when Greg called out for a break. "Let's take 10, folks," he said, his voice cutting through the echo of the warehouse. We all nodded, grateful for the reprieve, and made our way to a secluded corner far from the main area, where a stack of wooden pallets sat like a makeshift lounge. We settled down, the rough edges of the pallets digging into my legs through my jeans as I perched beside the guys. Greg pulled out a pack of cigarettes, the crinkle of the wrapper loud in the quiet space, and offered one to Marcus and Drew. They took them with a casual nod, lighting up almost in sync, the faint glow of the embers flickering in the dim light. I shook my head when Greg tilted the pack toward me. "Nah, I'm good," I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. But I stayed, leaning back against a crate, letting the conversation wash over me, like a distraction from the ache in my muscles. At first it was easy, light. Marcus launched into a story about a customer who'd mixed up a hammer with a mallet, nearly taking out a display shelf in the process. His booming laugh filled the air, and Drew tossed in a sarcastic jab about how some folks shouldn't be trusted with anything sharper than a spoon. The Greg chuckled louder than he needed to, his gums snapping as he grinned. I smiled, feeling a little more at ease, the tension of the day loosening just a bit. But then, the vibe shifted, subtle at first, like a shadow creeping across the floor. Marcus turned to me, his eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place. "You know, Jenna, you're way too pretty to be stuck behind that register all day," he said, his tone teasing but heavy with intent. My cheeks warmed, and I let out a nervous laugh, not sure how to respond. Drew didn't miss a beat, leaning forward with a smirk. "Yeah, I bet you keep things real interesting at home, huh?" His words hung there, suggestive, crossing a line I hadn't expected. My stomach twisted, a mix of flattery and unease churning inside me. I should have shut it down right then, told them to cut it out, walked away. But there was this other part of me, the part that's been bored out of my mind with the same old routine, the part that misses feeling seen, feeling wanted. It clawed at me, whispering to just let it play out, just for a moment. I shifted on the pallet, my fingers fidgeting with the hem of my shirt, caught between what I knew was right and this dangerous pull. Greg, who I thought might step in, didn't. Instead he laughed, a low, rough sound, and nudged me with his elbow. "Come on, Jenna, live a little. We're just messing around." His words felt like a push, not a lifeline, and the air grew thicker, charged with something I couldn't ignore. My heart started racing, pounding against my ribs as Marcus reached out, brushing his fingers along my arm, casual but deliberate. Drew leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear as he murmured something I won't repeat, but it sent a shiver down my spine. Greg just watched, that smirk still on his face, like he was enjoying the show. I knew I should have stood up, walked away, gone back to the safety of the counter. But I didn't. In that moment, loneliness and the thrill of being noticed overpowered everything else I let it happen. What unfolded there, In that hidden corner of the warehouse was a reckless, impulsive choice I'll regret for the rest of my days. I gave in to temptation. As I stood in the warehouse, the weight of what had just happened clung to me like a second skin, heavy and suffocating. My hands trembled as I stacked the last few boxes of power tools, the cardboard edges rough against my palms. I kept my head down, avoiding any glance toward Marcus, Drew, or Greg. Their voices echoed somewhere behind me, casual and unaffected, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. My chest felt like it was caving in under a crushing load of guilt, each breath a struggle against the memory of that secluded corner. How could I have let myself slip so far? I replayed those moments over and over, each detail sharper than the last, cutting into me with a shame I couldn't shake. What was I thinking, giving in to that fleeting rush when I had so much to lose? I forced my legs to move, carrying me back toward the front of Handy Haven. The warehouse doors swung shut behind me with a dull thud, and the familiar maze of aisles greeted me like an old friend, though even that felt tainted now. I plastered a smile on my face as I slid behind the register, the counter a barrier between me and the world. Customers came and went, their faces blurring together as I scanned items on autopilot. "Need a bag for that?" I'd ask, my voice hollow, while inside, my thoughts churned like a storm. I couldn't focus on their replies, couldn't care about their small talk. All I could think about was Tom. I pictured him at home, probably sprawled on the couch with the TV flickering in the background, or maybe tinkering with his old car in the garage, grease smudged on his hands. He had no idea, no clue about the line I'd crossed. The thought made my stomach twist tighter, a knot of dread I couldn't untangle. I fumbled for my phone during a quiet moment, my fingers shaky as I typed out a quick message to him. "Love you." I hit send before I could overthink it, hoping those 2 words could somehow ease the weight pressing down on me. My phone buzzed almost instantly, and his reply flashed across the screen. "Love you too, babe." My heart sank. Instead of relief, his sweetness only deepened the ache. I didn't deserve those words, not after what I'd done. I shoved the phone back into my pocket, the screen's glow fading as I turned back to the next customer, my smile faker than ever. The rest of the day dragged on, each minute stretching into eternity. The register beeped, the lights flickered, and the smell of wood and oil lingered in the air, but none of it registered. My mind was elsewhere, trapped in a loop of regret and fear. What if someone found out? What if I couldn't keep this buried? By the time I clocked out, my body felt heavy, like I was dragging chains behind me. I walked to my car in the dim parking lot, the evening air cool against my skin, but it offered no comfort. I slid into the driver's seat, shutting the door with a soft click, and just sat there for a moment, staring at the steering wheel. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't want music or voices to fill the silence. It was just me and my thoughts, a dangerous combination. The drive home felt endless, the streets blurring past as I gripped the wheel tighter than necessary, my knuckles pale. When I finally pulled into our driveway, the sight of our modest suburban house hit me like a punch. The lights were on, warm and inviting, spilling out through the front windows. It looked so normal, so safe, a stark contrast to the chaos inside me. I cut the engine and sat there, my hands still on the wheel, taking a deep breath that did nothing to steady me. I had to act normal. I had to. Tom couldn't know. Not yet, not ever. I grabbed my bag, stepped out of the car, and made my way to the front door, each step heavier than the last. The key turned in the lock with a familiar click, and I pushed the door open, the scent of home, faint traces of coffee and laundry detergent. I'm sitting on our worn-out couch in the living room, the faded fabric rough under my fingertips, the cushions sagging from years of use. Dinner's over, the plates cleared away, and the house is wrapped in a silence so thick it feels like it's pressing against my skin. The TV's off, the screen a dark mirror reflecting the dim glow of a single lamp in the corner. I can hear the faint tick of the clock on the wall, each second stretching out, heavy with something I can't name yet. Tom's beside me, close but not touching, his presence both a comfort and a weight. I've been trying to act normal all evening, forcing small talk about his day at the factory, laughing at nothing just to fill the quiet. But my chest is tight, like I'm waiting for a storm I know is coming. He shifts, reaching into his pocket, and pulls out his phone. His face is blank, unreadable, and that scares me more than any glare ever could. "Jenna, I stopped by the store today to surprise you," he says, his voice steady, almost too calm, like he's reading from a script. My stomach drops, a sickening lurch, as if the ground just vanished beneath me. I try to keep my expression neutral, but my hands are already clenching the edge of the couch, nails digging into the fabric. He keeps going, his words slow and deliberate. "I saw the lights on in the warehouse, and I got curious. So, I walked around to the back and peeked through the small window in the door." My heart slams against my ribs, each beat louder than the last, echoing in my ears like a drum. My palms are slick with sweat, and I wipe them on my jeans, hoping he doesn't notice the tremor in my fingers. Panic claws its way up my throat, bitter and sharp, as I try to piece together what he might have seen. I want to interrupt, to ask what he's talking about, to derail this before it goes any further, but my mouth is dry, my tongue glued to the roof of my mouth. He doesn't look at me, not yet. Instead, he turns the phone screen toward me, his thumb tapping the play button on a video. The footage is grainy, shaky, like it was filmed through a smudged lens, but it's clear enough. Too clear. There I am, in that hidden corner of the warehouse, with Marcus, Drew, and Greg. The shadows don't hide much. The way we're positioned, the movements, it's unmistakable, even from a distance. It's a moment I thought was buried, a reckless choice I made in a haze of weakness, now playing out in brutal clarity right in front of the man I've shared my life with for over a decade. My breath catches, a sharp, ragged gasp I can't control. My face burns, heat spreading from my cheeks down to my neck, shame searing through me like wildfire. I can't look away, even though I want to, need to. The video loops, starting over, each frame a fresh stab to my chest. I feel exposed, stripped bare in a way that's worse than any physical vulnerability. My hands are shaking now, openly, and I press them into my lap, trying to hide the evidence of my unraveling. I search for something to say, anything to break this moment, to undo what's already been done. But my mind is a blank, a swirling mess of regret and dread. Tom doesn't speak at first, letting the silence stretch, letting the weight of what I'm seeing crush me. When he finally does, his voice is still eerily calm, almost detached, like he's talking about the weather. "How could you do this to us?" That question. It's not a shout, not an accusation laced with anger, but it cuts deeper than any yell ever could. It's the quiet hurt in his tone, the way it trembles just slightly at the end, that breaks something inside me. I open my mouth, desperate to explain, to apologize, to throw myself at his mercy, but nothing comes out. My throat is tight, choked with a sob I'm fighting to hold back. The days after that night on the couch feel like I'm wading through thick, suffocating fog. The air in our house has turned cold, not from the temperature, but from the invisible wall that's risen between Tom and me. He's taken to sleeping on the couch now, the creak of the springs echoing through the quiet night as he shifts, a constant reminder of the distance I've created. I lie awake in our bed, the sheets tangled around me, staring at the empty space where he used to be, the silence heavier than any words could ever be. When we do cross paths, in the kitchen or the hallway, he barely looks at me. His eyes, once so warm, are clouded with something I can't reach. Hurt, betrayal, maybe even disgust. He speaks only when he has to, short, clipped sentences that cut me deeper than any argument could. "I'll be late tonight," he'll mutter, or "don't wait up." Each word is a brick in that wall, and I don't know how to tear it down. I've tried to apologize, over and over, until my voice feels raw from the effort. The first time, I sat him down at the dining table, my hands trembling as I stumbled through the words, begging him to understand that it was a mistake, a moment of weakness I can't even explain to myself. He just stared at the table, his jaw tight, and when I finished, he only said, "I don't know if I can trust you again." That sentence haunts me, replaying in my mind like a broken record. I've written him letters since then, pouring my heart onto the pages, leaving them on the counter or slipped under the living room door where he spends most of his time. Now I've written about how sorry I am, how I'd do anything to take it back, how I miss the way things were, but I don't know if he even reads them. They sit there, untouched, or disappear without a word, and I'm left wondering if my pleas are just falling into a void. The turmoil inside me is a storm that won't let up. I barely sleep, my eyes burning as I stare at the ceiling, replaying every wrong choice I made in that warehouse. When the exhaustion becomes too much, I slip into the bathroom, locking the door behind me so Tom doesn't hear the sobs that wrench themselves from my chest. I sit on the cold tile floor, my face buried in my hands, letting the tears come until there's nothing left but a hollow ache. I've lost count of how many times I've done this, hiding my breakdown behind closed doors, hoping the running water from the sink will mask the sound of my grief. I keep asking myself why. Why did I let myself fall into that trap? Why did I risk everything for a fleeting moment of feeling something? There are no answers, just more questions that twist the knife deeper. I couldn't go back to Handy Haven after everything came crashing down. The thought of facing Greg, Marcus, or Drew, of walking past that warehouse door, made my skin crawl with shame. I called in the next day after Tom showed me the video, my voice shaking as I told Greg I was done, that I couldn't come back. He didn't ask why, just grunted a quick, "All right," and that was it. I hung up the phone, feeling like I'd severed a piece of my life, but also like I'd escaped a cage I'd built for myself. That job was my stability, my routine, and now it's gone. Just like the trust I shattered at home. I don't know what I'll do next, but I know I couldn't stand behind that counter again, not with the weight of my actions staring me in the face through every aisle. Desperate for some kind of clarity, I reached out to a therapist last week. I found a number online, someone local who could see me quickly, and I've had a couple of sessions already. Sitting in that small, quiet office, I've started to unpack the mess inside me, trying to understand why I made such a destructive choice. Was it loneliness? Was it the slow erosion of excitement in my life that led me to make such a choice?